Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Sedmak Engel, Chairman of the Board for the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show. And welcome to our weekly 5 o'clock club. I'm super excited this week because we have an interview with one of my absolute favorite people in the entire world and an amazing artist and business person, Teresa Haag. Hi, Teresa.
Hey, Sandy.
How are you?
I am so good. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. I have to tell everyone when you first agreed to do this interview, I was working on all these really formal questions and I was going to be super professional. And then I was like, you know what? It's Teresa. I just want to talk to her. So
I
I
can't
think
even imagine you reading formal questions to
I
me.
know, I know. You would like look at me and be like, what are you doing, dude? So we're going to talk. Well, in a minute, I'm going to give Teresa a chance to introduce herself. But what we really want to talk to you guys about is what a great opportunity doing outdoor art shows can be, and how it can really like skyrocket your career as a professional artist. I think there's like a common misperception among artists that, oh, if you show at an outdoor show, that's like lesser than showing in a gallery. But that's just really not true. And Teresa is the absolute perfect example of um, what doing an outdoor art show can do for you. So why don't you just start and tell us about yourself, tell us about your history with our show, because you've been involved for what, like 7, 8 years?
Yeah, I the first year I did the show was 2013 and yeah, so it's been this would be 8 years
I
to
saw
be
you try
affiliated
to
with
do
the
the
show.
math. I saw that.
I know, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So back in 2013, I applied and, bit my nails and held my breath until I got the notification that I got in. To rewind a bit though, when we first moved to Philadelphia from upstate New York, um, before I had launched into my professional art career, I was still working in corporate. We used to go to the Rittenhouse show. My boys were teeny. I remember taking them in the stroller, and then I remember walking it, and we would go into the center of the park and let them run around. And we'd go see the artists. And I just remember it being this if I ever did the Rittenhouse show, I will have arrived.
Then you'd be a grown up, right?
But it would then I would be an artist.
Yeah.
So it was always this thing for me. So in 2013, I was about a year and a half into my professional art business, my art career business.
So you were in the corporate world
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I'll just give you the quick and dirty. I knew forever that I was an artist. However, when I went into school, when I graduated high school, went into college, I started in studio art, taking art classes, moved. I was working full time at Bausch and Lomb, and they offered to send me to school if I went for business. So I was like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I still took art. I was still making art. Hadn't found my voice yet. So I was still doing all the things and kind of searching for myself. But I spent 10 years in sales and marketing. And then in 2011, I left that job to be home with my kids and pursue my art career.
So that time that you were working for Bausch and Lomb, in the back of your mind, did you ever think that you would be where you are today, like so successful as a professional artist, or was that still kind of a dream in your head?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think it was this really palpable dream. I knew I was supposed to be making art, but I also had this desire to be a responsible human being, and I didn't see how I could put those 2 things together for a
That
while, and
that's a huge issue for people. They don't seem to be able to put those two things in the same sentence.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really interesting because, while I left in 2011, prior to that, I had actually decided to leave my job. I wanna say it was in 2009. and I'm pretty sure it was 2009. I had actually told my boss at the time, we were friends, and we were working together on a particular day, and we were at lunch, and I was like, listen, 2 weeks notice. I'm putting in today. I'm gonna go be an artist. This was before my kids were born and everything. So it was a big deal. My husband and I talked about it, and I got home after that lunch, and then I see my husband sitting on the couch, and I was like, "Why are you home? Like, what are you doing?" He's like, "Got laid off today." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh."
bam.
I was like, "You didn't tell anyone yet. Did you just pretend that never happened?" But I think
That was your practice run.
it was.
Yeah.
It was the best. It was the best thing though, because I didn't really, at that time, I still hadn't sort of found my voice. And it wasn't too long after that I sort of settled into what I do. But I don't think that I don't think I'd be here today had I not had that additional time working and sort of figuring out what was going to happen next for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I just realized I said hi to you and like introduced you by name, but I didn't even tell everyone your background. This is such a professional interview, isn't it? By the way, people, we are monitoring the chat. So if you guys have questions, pop them in. Teresa will be happy to answer.
We tell everything. There's nothing off limits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go deep.
It's expose with Teresa Haag. But anyway, Teresa served on the board of the show for how many years?
So 2013. I started in December of 2013, I want to say, and then till 2018.
Yeah, but for part of that time, Teresa was our chairperson.
Yeah, I think 2015, I was nominated to be chair, and I was chair for 3 years.
And did an amazing job.
Thanks.
I think maybe I know you were definitely the youngest person on the board, and I'm wondering if you're if you're the youngest ever.
No, actually, when I came on, I was not the youngest. I was young, but Blair Barber, she definitely when she was on the board when I came on. And so her and she's definitely younger than me, but I don't know by how much. But yeah, it was nice we connected. But then she left, and then I was the youngest.
And then you were the youngest. And then you were the youngest leader.
Yeah, probably.
And Teresa also started a program a lot of you may be familiar with, 25 Days of Minis, which is an online art show. I'll let you talk about that a little later, and is currently the owner of a program called the Artist Initiative, which is like an artist coaching program. So she's amazingly qualified.
I just don't like downtime. I just,
No, it's like, when do you take a day off? Never. Yeah. But I wonder if you could tell us how doing outdoor art shows, and especially working with our show, helped you grow. I don't think artists realize how much you can learn, what a great community there is in the outdoor art show world, and what it teaches you about business. Like, a lot of people just want to be artists and paint, and they think someone has to come discover me. And guess what? That doesn't usually happen, right?
Well, and if you're going to get discovered, right, if that's going to be your mentality, like, I'm going to wait to get discovered, where better than outside in the public where everybody can come see you, right?
Where thousands and thousands of people get to see your work. Yeah. So much better than galleries. I mean, we love galleries, but
we love galleries.
So much exposure.
Yeah. Everybody has a place. But yeah, this is a great question and a great topic to talk about. When I was getting started and I was trying to figure out how to like really make my business successful, because, just going back there, I left my corporate job, which meant I gave up my company car and my salary. And we were a single family car,
little babies,
2 little babies.
Yeah.
And I just had my like double stroller walking around town. I remember it was the sacrifice was so great. I remember like saving my grocery money, like counting, like cutting coupons and just being like, okay, if I want to buy this tube of paint, I have to like get these many sales at the grocery store this week. It was like that much. And so it was so important to me. Like when I decided to just go all in with my art and really make it, like my goal was I never want to have to go back to a corporate job.
Right.
So looking at my options then, it was like, how can I get my artwork in front of the most amount of people? How can I get as good as quickly as possible about talking about my artwork, right?
Which is so hard.
It's so hard in the beginning because you're like, I don't, what do I say? It's so uncomfortable. You're talking about yourself and you're just like, this feels weird.
Yeah, you're
So
like, oh, I painted this, and it's, you know, it's the light and it's the texture, and then you realize you got to go further than
exactly. It brings you joy. It brings me joy. Like
that. Or
always
you're
the
like,
joy.
I'm just an artist. It's just what I do because it's in my soul, and that's true. But there's so much more to tell if you want to connect.
So much. Right, right. It's like, but you have to go through it and you have to go and talk to people and stand out of your chair and like get out into the world and fail a lot and stumble over your words a lot and say the same thing over and over. I know, like, I for sure know people who have been next to me at booths are like, would that lady please stop talking about newspaper? Please.
They're like, just read this one.
For those of you out there, I paint over newspaper on canvas. And so at shows, I'm like, everyone's like, why? What the newspaper was? So I have to say it over and over and over again, which is great, but also, you know, it's not
Yeah,
the most fun to listen to if you're not me. So,
right.
um,
We
yeah,
had we had a quick question that I think before you go on is a good
yeah,
one. Amy wants to know, do you feel your sales and marketing background helped in doing public shows?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I was already like, I already was very well acclimated to what it feels like for people to say no or not answer or walk out. Like I
Yeah.
just that wasn't a thing for me. I didn't make it mean anything. There was a huge learning curve. So I mean, I was selling contact lenses prior to that. So it's like little plastic discs. I was working
Contact
with
lenses,
doctors'
fine
offices.
art. I mean, come on.
I know.
Yeah. Same,
It was
same,
a
right?
totally different experience, but same thing. Like you're just so many people are like, cool, that's nice. Can I have a card? Or
Mm,
I don't have wall space, or it's not my style. All of those things happen a gajillion times,
yeah.
but it wasn't like a thing. So that was good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just from the perspective of I just knew I could figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
went in with that attitude. So yeah, good question.
So, can you tell us, and you don't, I know your story, you know my story,
Mhm.
but Teresa and I met at an art show.
At
Um,
Rittenhouse. No, not at
no,
Rittenhouse.
no, no.
Not
I met
Rittenhouse.
you at a show in Baltimore, and then we
Sorry.
reconnected again. She invited me to stay at her house, and I drove up to her house, not knowing her at all. And I called my husband and said, "Okay, I'm going in. I'm going to stay with these people that I don't know." And now she's like my sister. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Well, that's the
want
thing,
you.
like, when you do art shows, right? It's like you meet like, what so when you do an outdoor show or you do outdoor shows, you see a lot of the same people all the time,
Yeah.
and it's, like, not easy, right? There's a lot of work that goes into setting up a show, so you sort of become bonded to the people around you really quickly.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
like you
like
were saying, when you're at a show and you're next to someone for the whole weekend, you get to know them.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
I trusted you.
yeah. I trusted you too, obviously. Um, okay. I have to stay on track if this is an interview or not just chitty chatting. Like pay attention to me. So I want you to tell everyone about the first couple of shows you did and how you went in, um, setting up your space, and just kind of like I love the story about how you and your husband would do your, what did you call it, your debrief after every show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just talk about how you like developed into the amazing artist that you are today.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly in the beginning, I'll tell you. It was like, there's just a lot that you can do with outdoor shows, and when you first jump into it, you're kind of like, wow, I don't even know where to start. So we just started somewhere. So we got our little tent. I remember showing up to our first outdoor show. Um, and we didn't know how to put up, we had an easy up at the time. We didn't know how to put up our tent. So like the neighbors were coming over and showing us like the
Because
secret to doing.
you didn't like practice before the.
No, we
Yeah.
didn't. We were like, it took us 4 hours to put up an easy up tent. And I'm not
Those of
kidding.
you who don't know.
We like put the sides on backwards. We didn't have anything. It was really a hot mess, but we got it up, and then we didn't have display panels. So obviously we used wire, and we wired them from the tent. So
Obviously.
hanging down from the tent side.
So they were like
Good.
swaying in the
Just
wind.
every time, it wasn't even, it was like the lightest little breeze, but the people in the booth were like going like this, watching, like looking at the work because it was just moving.
It's like a dance, an art dance.
Thank God it wasn't windy, because I honestly don't remember even having weights. I mean, maybe we had like,
Oh,
I
didn't have weights for like a
yeah,
day.
I don't think I did. I don't think I had weights on my tent. It was, it was just so funny.
Well,
Like,
and tell everyone why having weights on your tent is so important.
oh man, you know, having done shows for 8 years, I've seen and been actually part of storms that have just taken down tents. Like the most professional weighted tents,
Yeah.
when a big enough storm comes, and it's really scary. People, I saw a woman's arm break when she was trying to hold on to her tent. She got swung around and fractured her arm, and tents flipped. It can be so scary, but
most of the time it's good.
most of the time it is not a problem. And most of the time it's perfectly fine. But waiting your tent, taking all the safety precautions that you can, is imperative when you do outdoor shows. So
Yeah.
it's nothing to mess around with. No, not to scare anybody out there, but listen, I'd rather you be scared and bring like all the weights. So a good rule of thumb, 40 to 50 pounds per leg. There's so many hacks out there on how to do this. So I go to YouTube, tent weights.
Mhm.
I have all sorts of ideas. PVC pipe is what I was using, but there's lots of other ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what I was talking about before that.
Oh. Oh, Hannika's here. She said like family.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do. You just become a big family. That's one of the things I noticed when I got out of corporate and then started my art business and started doing outdoor shows. It was like, I remember thinking how much my life was so much fuller with the people in my life. Like I just felt so much more connected with all my friends. And
Yeah.
yeah, you just felt like you were in this whole new world of
Yeah.
people. And
You're working really hard, but at the end of the day, you love what you're doing. So
yeah.
and you're like you said, you're surrounded by people that are in the same boat you are, and doing it for a living. So tell me, we keep chatting and chatting. So you started out that way. But you and Eric, your husband, always had like a business approach to this.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about that.
My husband, he came with me on every single show for the first maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that in a second. But we would go in. So we started with, like I said, bare minimums. And then we would look around. He would go walk around. He would like make notes. I mean, I'm not kidding you. He's in IT. He's like really analytical. So he'd have notes in a spreadsheet that he'd be working on about what other people's displays were, what might work. He would come and say, go look at so-and-so's tent and booth, talk to them. So very quickly, we were able to identify the things that we wanted to change. So every single show we did, we tried just adding one more thing or setting up a little differently.
Yeah, like slow upgrades.
Yeah, very slow.
Yeah.
But it like each improved, and every time we made a little improvement, you'd notice more people would come in, more you would just learn how to sort of engage better. And what we would do at the end of a show, so you take down, it's Sunday and it's usually hot and you're sweaty and you pack up. There's nothing better than that last thing that goes into your van and you like close the door,
if your van door closes.
Oh, yeah. True. True.
That's
That
all.
was crazy. That was a crazy thing. Anyway, we would go get pizza because my husband is obsessed with pizza, and we would go find some really beautiful place to like pull over. So depending on what city we're in for the shows, we would like just look for a park or a vista where we can sit outside and eat our pizza while we would do a debrief. And so we would say what worked, what didn't work, what are we going to do differently next time? We would make notes. This was the magic right there.
Yeah.
It took 20 minutes, and that's how all of the growth came for us.
And didn't you also find, I know I did when I started shows, that most of the artists are really willing to help you. Like they'll give you advice, they'll tell you what they did, they'll talk about their setups with you. You know, it's very rare. I have a funny question for you in a second that someone just typed in chat. But it's very rare at an outdoor show, especially at the Rittenhouse show, where you find another artist who doesn't want to share with you and is like hoarding their own information. Like we're an open sharing bunch.
Yeah, I don't think that I've ever felt like somebody was hoarding information. We're all, I think we all are like, yeah, let me tell you everything I know because I know all the things.
Yeah, because you want to prove how good you are at doing outdoor art shows. I have to, this is from Tracy Salas. She says, Teresa, do you remember the show in Lancaster a couple of years ago when it rained and it was like a mudslide in the artist tent? It was awful. Tracy, you're so funny. Tracy is an avid art collector and a wonderful lady. And yeah, do you remember the mudslide?
I do. I'm telling you, it's like you don't know until you're out there and you're like, but then you just make it, you just do it. You're like, cool, I'm going to be barefoot for the rest of the show. Or you just make it work. And like the collectors that come to shows are just as diehard. So they're like, it doesn't matter. It's raining. It's mudding. It's like torrential downpour. We're there. It's all good.
And you know, that's the thing when you're at a show, if it's raining or that, you know, there's like unfortunate weather, those collectors, those patrons who are walking the show are there because they want to see the art. Like they're not there to get a hot dog and listen to music, you know, they get a hot dog and listen.
I know. I'm like, okay.
Oh, we digress. Okay. All right. So you guys did your debriefs. You built up your the quality of your displays. Mm-hmm. You moved in. So talk a little bit about how serving on the board of our show, the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show, helped you expand your career even further. If it did.
Yeah, it was when they asked me to be on the board, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I was like, wait, are you sure? I was like, are you talking to me? Are you sure?
Me?
I was like, I don't know. Okay. I was pretty new, but I was like always interested in doing better. Like I was always interested in improving, and I was always lending a hand. So I remember we had a terrible storm. My very first Rittenhouse, it was raining so hard that they closed the show.
That was my first Rittenhouse too. They closed on Friday.
Yeah. And luckily
the rest of the all this terrible weather. It's really not like that all the time.
I mean, there is bad weather, but there's also like a ton of good weather. But it was really bad. And a couple of booths down, a tent had collected so much water in the canopy that it like sort of came down. So I ended up running over and like soaking wet. Just we're like the whole group of us are just trying to help this artist get all her stuff packed up and everything. And so I met the board at that point, and I think from that sort of interaction, they were like, oh, she might be somebody we want to come on the boards, and they had an opening. So I interviewed, there was a few other people, they asked me to come on the board. And again, I was like, are you sure? Because I 100% didn't think they were going to ask me to do it. But I
remember when you told me, you were like, I'm on the board. Like you didn't quite believe. Yeah, it was, and I was like, that's amazing. And you're like, okay. But
I
anyway,
know. My self-concept at that time was definitely not somebody who thought she was supposed to be on a board of directors of an art show. That was, I mean, remember just a couple years earlier, I was like, if I make it to this show,
yeah,
I have arrived. And now I'm like on the board. So
yeah,
it was a real big deal. And, I'll just say that the work on the board is substantial, right? Like I took it very seriously, knowing that how much of an impact a successful show can have on it. I'm going to get choked up. Have on an artist that wants
good. If
to
you cry, I'm gonna
be,
cry.
I know, who wants to make a living making their artwork, right? I know how it feels to not want to do anything else but that.
Yeah,
So, how important it is to be able to provide that platform to artists so that they can live their dream, right? So, the whole work that we do for Rittenhouse, providing that opportunity during the show, and like how heavy that is, right? It's like I just remember being on the jury, and um, back then we were during like in that room, and just the amount of emotion knowing that you're just having all of this impact in one moment.
yeah, because the jury is responsible for who gets to be in this show and who doesn't. And
Yeah.
even though our jury is a blind jury, which means there's no names, like you were saying earlier, when you do outdoor art shows, these artists are your friends, and even if you don't see their picture or their name, you recognize their artwork. And
Totally.
there's so much talent out there, and there's just not enough spaces. 143 spaces um, is just not enough for all the talent that applies, and
Yeah.
it's a big job. You have to take it seriously, jurying who gets offered a space and who doesn't.
Yeah. It was a big deal. So I think by time on the board, I learned how to do hard things. I mean, I think that was one of the big things. It's like you had to make decisions. My very first show that I was chairman,
Oh
the again, I'm going to tell another weather story, but
yeah.
they were calling for really bad weather, and like significant weather in Philly, and we're in the city, so you don't mess around with that. The wind can pick up, and so
Yeah, we're surrounded by like high rises, so it can or can't be like a weird little wind tunnel. Oh yes,
yeah,
apply to our show. That was
I know.
that.
Listen, it's rare. And I ended up making the decision. I mean, it was a group decision, but ultimately it was my choice to give artists the option to tear down a few hours early. And it was not a popular it was not a popular decision from many artists, but it's a family affair, and we all take care of each other. And
But that ended up being absolutely the right decision, because I think it was right after the official end of the show, that storm came through and it was
yeah,
done.
it was pretty bad. So
Yeah.
anyway, I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and working together, and the teamwork, and just the love. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a wonderful experience to be part of it.
Yeah. And you did a lot for the show as far as kind of helping us get into the 20th century, making sure we had a great website and
Yeah.
starting the social media, and yeah.
Zoom, doing meetings by Zoom. That was before Zoom was a thing, too.
Now everyone's like, Zoom, I'm an old pro. Look at us. We're talking on Zoom, and we're broadcasting on Facebook Live, and it's gonna go onto YouTube. Can you imagine me?
I mean, you're teaching
You've
me stuff
always been
today.
techie. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Here's my power button on my computer. Um, yeah, I'm just checking to see if anybody has any questions. All right, so you still participate in our show as an artist, but you have, in the last couple of years, like I mentioned earlier, you've been running the program 25 Days of Minis for what? Like, I know you started with you, and then it was like me and you.
Yeah. So back like 2013 was apparently a big year for me. So 2013, I tried out a mini program just on my own via Facebook at the end of the year during Christmas. And yeah, we just grew it really slowly over the next few years. You started with me. We just would post each other's work and share and sell
Yeah.
our work. And
And
then
call
it
it an art
grew.
show.
Yeah. We're like, hey, come buy some minis. It's
Yeah.
Christmas. Then 2018, we moved onto a website and we've just been growing it. And it's just kind of taken over a life of its own. It's been really incredible to be part of it. Which then led to the knowledge. Initially I thought it was let's help artists with a platform so they can sell their work at the holidays.
Mhm.
And then we realized, because I was spending, well, you too, because you're a mentor in there, spending so much time helping artists, answering business questions, how to set up websites, how to market, like all of that. We were spending a significant amount of time leading up to minis that we were just like, let's just make this a program.
Yeah.
Because why limit artist selling just at Christmas time or the holidays? And let's just help with tools that they can use throughout the year. And so now we have a whole entire educational program and coaching for artists, which has been, we launched it right around COVID last year. And I can't even tell you how much love I have for doing this alongside of my artwork. It really feels like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, I feel like we've kind of come full circle, and we do have a couple questions, so
Mm-hmm.
remind me. Um,
Yeah.
but you were talking earlier about how much you learn at art shows and how artists help each other out,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, just supporting each other, sharing information, and now that's that's your business. Um, and I think that's amazing. And I don't feel like if I feel like if you would have traveled a different path, you wouldn't be where you are today,
Mm-hmm.
starting this program. We haven't even said initially it was called Have Your Best Show.
Yes, that's what it was first,
Yeah.
right? That was like, COVID's here, artists need help. What are we gonna do?
Everyone's
And
freaking out.
everyone's, I had bought that domain 2 years prior because it was like a little spark in my brain. I'm like, this might be fun to do someday. And I was like, let's just roll with this and get this like help out as soon as possible. So it was Have Your Best Show, which we knew pretty early on that like we sort of learned through the year what was working, what wasn't. And so at the end of the year, we decided to move into a new program name called the Artist Initiative. And that's what we are now. So you can.
But can you tell
Um,
us, we do have one question that says explain what minis actually are.
mhm.
Um, but I want you to also talk about what you actually do in the Artist Initiative, because I know what you do, you know what you do. But and then
Yeah.
after that we have a couple, we'll have a couple more questions. But
Yeah. So I'll just give you the quick rundown, but the Artist Initiative is it's kind of like a hybrid. Like, so as an artist, you have lots of questions on how to run your business. I think the number one thing artists come into the program is feeling overwhelmed and uncertain on what they need to do in order to create a living making their artwork. I think at the end of the day, they're like much like me. I just didn't want to have to go back and work a corporate job, and I wanted to be able to create my work
mhm.
as my life. And so what we do in the Artist Initiative is not only give you the framework, the tools to do that. So how to plan, we teach you how to, create from within, or like, come from your own self and use your own voice. And we show you how to show your work, tell your story, and then sell. But that's actually that's not even half of it. Most of it really is about you getting out of your own way and just deciding this is what you want. So we also layer in a whole coaching program where you can come and say, like, I'm stuck on this, and we help you through that as well. So that's really what we're all about. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like taking all of the artists that you've met at like the Rittenhouse show or any outdoor shows you do, and putting them all in this intense place. And yeah, I mean, I know I've been participating with you since you started, and I have learned so much. And I think I know everything. So
Yeah, and it's so fun because it's not, I mean, yes, I give you the
it is
experiences that
fun.
I have,
Fun.
but it's like really an individual growth experience. Every artist is different, and you get to come in and take what you want and learn what you want and kind of grow at your own speed. So
Yeah.
it's
And
good.
is there a link to that program on your website?
Yeah, so you can go to my website and just click on work with me, and you can there's a link to the Artist Initiative page. Also, you can just schedule a time to chat with me. I can like sort of understand what it is you're trying to do, and we can just jump on a free call and talk about it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, Chris did say explain what minis actually are, and I think he's talking about not the program, but we're talking about
Like
mini. What's a
what an
mini?
actual mini. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever, and I have to tell you, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if anybody else knows this, but whenever anybody says minis to me, like they're like, what's a mini? My brain, this is so ridiculous. Go YouTube this when you get off. But there used to be this, like this commercial on TV back before like Netflix and all that. But there was like a jingle that was like mini buffalo ranch chicken sandwich. It was like a dance that went with it.
You're like, chicken
I
sandwich.
was like, you do this. And so I have to share that because like anytime people ask me questions, I'm like, I go into that song in my head. So that's what was playing. So it's not a jingle.
Thank
A
you. Now
mini,
all night. Mini buff.
a mini is really, it's just, we classify it in 25 days of minis as 12 by 12 inches or less in whatever medium you work in. Now we're non-functional, just like Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show. The 25 Days of Minis is also a non-functional show.
Yeah.
So we're not like mugs, and I mean, love our crafts people, right? But we just don't have that capacity at this time.
Right.
So it's all fine art, painting, sculpture, printmaking, drawing, all that.
Yeah, and there's artists from all over the country. When you and I talk now, you've kind of always talked this way, and you've got me talking this way when we're talking about like the size of our work. You're like, I'm bringing 2 bigs, 6 minis, two. Do you say medium? Is it medium?
Yeah, yeah.
And now I know it's like, oh, that's like a 6 by 6.
Yeah.
The medium's like 18 by 24, and then the bigs are big. Okay. So Alan asks, what are the typical number of art pieces an artist would bring to sell? I think they're talking about at our show. I'm trying to build my inventory and have never done shows, but I'm thinking about it. I do oils, love Rittenhouse.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Do you want me to answer that, Sandy, or do you want to take this one?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah. So there is a
No, wait, I will. It depends. There. Okay.
There you go, right? I mean, it's Alan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alan, can you give, like, if you're still there and you're listening, can you just type in and tell us a little bit more about what kind of work you're creating? I know your oils, but like, are you normally large scale? What's your typical sizes? Do you do small, bigs, mediums? Like we were just talking about. What my preference is I like a nice gallery style hanging. So I don't like to hang, double hang, triple hang in my booth because I like just streamline. So I'll do, it's 9-foot walls, 3 9-foot walls, I think. And so I like to have
the
3 or
booths
4
are 10 feet
pieces.
by 10 feet. So
Yeah. So I just like nice eye level all the way around my booth. Clean, crisp. I can always hang more when I sell. Other artists love to like fill up their booths, and it can definitely work for them too. So I think the big thing is, how does it feel when you're in the space?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what dictates how many pieces should be in your booth.
Yeah, because I mean, most of your work is pretty substantial.
And busy. I'm like, it's overwhelming. My work is like really busy. And so I can't have lots of work.
And I know I still have to fight myself. I am one of those artists that I have a lot of small work that I show. So I do hang, above, but you would always come in my booth like, no, that's too much work. And I was like, no, it's not, because I want everyone to see everything that I possibly painted in my entire life. But you do, I will say you were right and I was wrong. This is recorded for the whole world to hear.
You better believe that soundbite is getting snipped.
You'll probably like call me up and just leave the message. I was right. You were wrong.
The next time you come to my house, I'm going to switch out your ringtone to that soundbite. So you know.
But as you want your space to look clean and consistent and not overwhelm the patrons that are coming into your booth. Alan did respond. He said, the largest I've done is 11 by 14 and as small as 6 by 6. So his work is on the smaller side.
Yeah. So you'd probably want to play around. You could potentially like double hang the 6 by 6s and like stagger with 11 by 14s and just play around with it. Get some graph paper out and you can like do
that's a good idea.
You can like set up. Sandy, you're like the queen of that. You would come in with a booth plan every single time. I'm like,
I didn't use graph paper though. I used scrap paper, but I still had a plan.
Yeah. And just play around with that. And that way you sort of have an idea of what it's going to look like. You just don't want, it's like there's a fine balance. You don't want it to be too sparse and you don't want it to be too busy.
Right. Because if you go into a space and there's, like you said, it's a 10 foot by 10 foot, so 3 9-foot walls, and there's 3 6 by 6 paintings in there, then that's going to feel like maybe you're unprepared. Alan said, great answers. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also a hack. I'll just tell you guys really quick. If you have like pro panels or graphic display panels or, something that's movable, I've had situations in which I didn't have enough work for a show. So I just removed a layer of panels so that my booth just became shallower. So again, if you're just starting out and you don't have a complete inventory that's going to fill up an entire booth, you can also play around with your display and sort of remove some panels so it still feels like a full booth. It's almost like an optical illusion, and then you can fill up the whole space.
I recall someone showing up at a show because she sold all her work and had like one huge painting in her booth, and that was it. I don't remember who that was. Oh wait, that was you.
Yeah, that was so fun. That was like, it'll never happen again. So I'm so grateful for that.
But what a great problem to have.
Such a great, so I had one painting that I wasn't even finished, but I was I was the chairman of the show at the time. So I was like, I can't not be.
I gotta show up.
So I get creative and just remembered like, okay, how can I make this feel really special for anybody who's walking in? So that's what I did. I just played around. Yeah.
We are almost out of time. We've been running our mouths for almost 45 minutes. So I want to tell everyone out there, we're excited about our June show. It's the first weekend in June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And the applications for our September 2021 show are currently up. If you go to our website, which will get posted in the chat, it's rittenhousesquareart.com. There's a link to the application, or you can go to Zapplication to apply. So could you just tell us in the last couple minutes, give people some tips on what they should do to apply for a show like the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show? And then you can finish up by telling us why our show is the most awesome show ever and you just love it.
100%.
Okay.
So you got to have a good booth shot. Okay, guys, like, listen, I'm serious. That's the most important thing you can have. I'm talking from my own experience here, but looking through 400 and 500 applications, we want the whole visual experience of what it's going to be like when we're like, we as the jury want to make sure that the show feels cohesive and consistent. And from our perspective, it's the booths, because it's booth versus a piece of artwork. Right. So you want your booth shot to be solid. Like that's the most important piece. And then consistency in your artwork. Don't give them a range. Like don't show what you're capable of here, guys. Pick one style and then find the pieces that work best together on that page. This is the most important thing next to your booth shot, right? So awesome booth shot, showing the images that look like the images you're giving in a consistent style. Then,
and if you want to show more than one body of work, submit 2 applications, submit a separate application.
Yeah, you can submit what, 4? Is that right still with you guys?
I honestly think you can submit as many as you want.
Listen,
I
guys,
don't,
if you're doing more than 3 different bodies of work, then you should start constraining, and you come talk to me and I'll help you with that. Okay.
Then you need to come to Artist Initiative.
You do. We can help you with that. So get those in. The deadlines are ridiculously important. They come up on you real quick, and there's nothing worse than missing a deadline because they do not budge. I'm telling you. We get Monday, tons of gravel emails. You're not going to get your way in, right? And why Rittenhouse? Okay, guys. I'm just going to say this, that there's no better feeling than to be opening up your booth in Center City, Philadelphia in the summer and in the fall when there's like the show doesn't open until 11 in the morning. Like that's the official time, unless you guys have changed it since I've left. But listen, the streets are packed by 11. It's like you just get there in the morning, you open up and just there's so many people and they're dying to talk to you about your work.
Yeah.
And you're in the city and there's like La Colombe coffee coming in and there's like bagels in the middle of the park and everybody who is on the board and all of the team members of Rittenhouse, they're so lovely and awesome and wonderful. It really is an experience in itself just to do the show.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great area. It's a really affluent area. The people that come to the show, they're there, like I was saying earlier, they're not there for hot dogs and dance music. They're there to look at fine art and hot dogs. And what was the other one? Little mini
buffalo ranch chicken sandwich.
All right. We are actually a little over our time. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to my friend and I babble on for 45 minutes. And thank you so much for coming on, Teresa. It was so good to see you.
Yeah, you as well, Sandy. This was so much fun. Guys, apply, get your applications in, and then go to the June show, walk around, get all your ideas, and kick ass in September.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't have said it better myself. Okay. All right, sweetie. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Bye.